We live in a world just full of stuff. We buy it, we use it, and then, well, we throw it away. But that last part, away, is getting to be a really big problem. So today, we're going to look at a pretty radical idea that could change, well, everything: the circular economy. Just look at this. Every single year, we create literal mountains of waste. It's piling up, it's polluting our planet, and honestly, it's a huge waste of energy and materials. So, here's the big idea for today. What if we stopped looking at all this as trash and started seeing it for what it really is? A hidden gold mine. For about a century now, our whole economy has worked on a really simple, straight line. We take resources out of the ground, we make them into products, and then we just chuck them when we're done. Take, make, waste. It's been amazing for producing things for sure, but it has a huge flaw. It's just not sustainable. We're running out of resources, and we're running out of room for all the trash. All right, so just how big is this problem, really? Let's put some actual numbers on this throwaway culture of ours. Okay, think about this number for a second. 1.5 million tons. That's how much just food and garden waste gets thrown out in a single Australian state every year. It's just a staggering amount, and you see that same pattern all over the world with plastics, with electronics, with clothing, you name it. We are literally burying treasure in the ground. So yeah, that picture is a little bleak, but there is a powerful alternative that's really starting to catch on. It's all about bending that straight line of our economy into a circle. Instead of take, make, waste, the whole idea of the circular economy is to just design wastes out of the system from the very beginning. It's a model where materials just keep cycling back into use, creating value over and over and over again. And the key thing to get here is that this isn't just about recycling a bit more. Nope. It's a total redesign of how we make and use things. So how does this actually work in the real world? Well, one of the coolest parts is something called industrial symbiosis. The best way to think about it is like a natural ecosystem, but for factories. So one company's waste becomes another company's raw material. It's this amazing collaborative approach that turns these separate industries into one big, interconnected system where pretty much nothing gets wasted. And look, it's not an all-or-nothing kind of deal. There's a whole hierarchy of actions. People call it the R ladder. Now, this is a simplified version, but you'll get the idea. At the top, you've got your best options, like taking something and just repurposing it for a totally new job. A little further down, you've got recycling, where you break something down to make new materials. And then near the bottom, you have things like recovery, where you might generate energy from waste. The goal is always to stay as high up on that ladder as you possibly can. Okay, so this all sounds great in theory, right? But is anyone actually doing it? Oh, absolutely. Let's take a look at some real-world examples of the circular economy in action right now. And, even the biggest players from the old linear economy are jumping on board. Instead of just walking away from old coal power plants, companies are actually transforming them. They're using the infrastructure that's already there to build huge battery storage sites and hubs for renewable energy. It is a perfect example of repurposing. And for the stuff that you just can't repurpose or recycle, that's where that recover step comes in. You've got these advanced technologies like gasification, which is a fancy way of saying they use super high heat to break down waste without actually burning it. These plants can turn what's left over into a gas that can generate electricity. Pretty incredible. This whole industrial symbiosis thing can be so simple yet so effective. Check out this case study from Cyprus. You had a cement factory making this waste product, cement kiln dust, and nearby a quarry had its own byproduct, limestone fines. On their own, both were just wastes that cost money to get rid of, but together, they became valuable ingredients for new building materials. It's a total win-win. And you see the same idea popping up everywhere. Researchers are now taking agricultural waste, things like vine stems that would normally just be burned, and they're using those strong plant fibers to create things like sustainable boards for furniture. It's a direct line from the farm to the factory, creating value from something that was once just thrown away. But look, these individual projects can only take us so far. If we want this circular economy to be the new normal, governments have to get involved. They need to set the stage, right? They need to invest in the right infrastructure, create markets that actually make recycled materials cheaper, and help communities through this big shift. It's really about creating a whole ecosystem where being circular is the easiest and the most profitable choice. So the way forward seems pretty clear, but that doesn't mean it's going to be easy. There are some pretty big hurdles we've got to clear to make this circular future a reality. Take a look at the recycling goals in New South Wales, Australia. Right now, they're recovering about 66% of their waste. Their target for 2030 is 80%. Now, that 14-point gap might not sound like a lot, but we're talking about millions of tons of stuff. Closing that gap is going to take huge investment and a major change in the system. And one of the biggest roadblocks isn't even technical, it's social. It's about trust. You could have the most amazing technology in the world, but if you want to build a new recycling plant, you absolutely need the local community on board. And way too often, consultation is just treated like a box-ticking exercise. That destroys trust and can lead to opposition that can delay or even kill these vital projects. So when you put it all together, the barriers are pretty complex. Economically, just dumping stuff in a landfill is often still the cheapest option. Technically, we don't always have good data on what's in our waste. Socially, businesses can be wary of trusting each other. And then you layer on top of all that a bunch of regulatory and logistical headaches that can stop a fantastic idea before it even gets started. So, with all these challenges, what does the future really hold? Well, this is about way more than just managing our trash better. This is about completely rethinking our place in the world. At the end of the day, the push for a circular economy really comes from somewhere deeper. It's us finally admitting that our linear take, make, waste model is just completely out of sync with our finite planet. This isn't just about being more efficient, it's a real, practical strategy for learning how to live within our means, ecologically speaking. And what's amazing is that this modern, techie-sounding concept actually has roots in ancient wisdom. This quote from an Aboriginal Barkhanji ranger just says it perfectly. It's this core idea of stewardship, that we don't own the planet's resources. We're just caretakers, right? And we have a responsibility to look after them for everyone who comes after us. So here's the bottom line. We have the technology. We have the business models. We've got more and more proof that this system works, that it's good for the economy, and it's good for the environment. The transition from a linear to a circular world, it's one of the biggest challenges of our time, for sure. But all the pieces are there. The only question left is, do we have the will to actually build it? Thanks for joining this explainer.